Welcome to Gateways to Glendale College. I'm Ann Ransford, Director of Communications and Marketing in the Foundation.
And I'm Dave Greenbaum, President of the Glendale College Foundation. And Ann, before you introduce our guests, why don't you share with us and the viewing audience about the times this program can be seen?
Well, Gateways to Glendale College will be airing on Channel 15 at 7 p.m. on Thursdays, at 1:30 p.m. on Saturdays, and 11 o'clock on Sundays. So join us for any of those times.
And tell us a little bit about our guest today.
Oh, we have a great guest today, Jim Spencer, who is our architect, been the architect here at the college for, what, about
16 years?
16 years. And Jim has just made a major influence on this campus, and we've talked about how beautiful it is here, and he's one of the people that we have to thank for that. Jim has a Bachelor's of Architecture from USC. He's a registered architect here in California, and he was in the Navy from 1965 to 1967, and he's a member of the Sierra Club. So he's got a really varied resume here. Jim, nobody has seen change and had more influence in the physical change in this campus than you. Tell us a little bit about that.
Well, as I mentioned before, we've been here for 16 years, which means we started with the college in 1984, rather ignominiously with a very small project, but little things lead to bigger things. And I think the college was right on the threshold of a major amount of new growth. It was growing for reasons that no one probably fully understood at the time. Interesting is to look at pictures of the college back in 1984, which I took when I first started there, and then compare them with pictures of today. And you'll see some slides of what the library looked like before we built the addition on the front of it, and the fact that it didn't really tie in with the style of the rest of the campus. You'll see pictures of the original administration building and the auditorium, which were designed in the Spanish colonial style of the 1930s when the campus was built. And you'll see some of the new courtyards and properly landscaped spaces that replace some of the earlier spaces on campus. And of course it culminates with the completion of the new Central Park, which for the first time gives the college some open space.
And this is going to be a real special part of the college. You know, stepping back a little bit and how we got started with this, because Jim, you and I started working together, we decided maybe 8 or 9 years ago, putting together the facilities master plan. And you did such a good job of guiding us through that project. And tell us a little bit about why that was important.
Well, I'd like to first thank you for your role, because you really, I think, helped facilitate two very important things that occurred on the master plan, and that was contact with the neighboring community and contacts with the city, which made possible several things that were crucial to the master plan of the college, namely parking and the acceptance of the idea that the college would grow to a certain size that was needed to serve the number of students that were coming. We together developed the master plan. It was a team of people representative of the college, and the master plan was finished in 1991, but it was really begun in about 1988. So it's a 3 or 4 year effort.
And back in '86, Jim, did you have the vision of what you thought the college could look like, 10 years later? Is this kind of what you pictured in your mind at that particular time?
Not quite.
Yeah.
I just had expectations of being able to do a project or two at the campus, and things just kind of developed. The hiring of Gene Larson in 1986 or 87, and then John Davitt becoming the president were, I think, two important moments, because they put into motion the process of planning, and we started looking at what was possible. I think the expectations, me included, were much lower than what ultimately came out, as you see in the picture.
Have you done architectural work for other community colleges, or is Glendale College basically your only public institution that you've been affiliated with? Or how did you get started and get connected with Glendale College back in '86?
Well, I had a fairly long career working for other architectural firms, specializing in the community colleges that go back to maybe 1967 or 1968. And I master planned a whole new college that was ultimately built. But really, my career and our firm really had its beginning with Glendale College. And I hate to admit it, but we work now with 9 or 10 colleges in Southern California. But it all began right here.
This is really the monument to your greatest success here, I guess, this beautiful campus. And I know how, when we had our 70th anniversary, what a special moment that was. And it was nice to have all your family with us that night, too. Yeah.
Yes, it was something that really, it all began for us here, and Glendale is very special to me, personally.
Well, you know, Ann, maybe it'd be a good idea now to plug something that we haven't talked about previously. And we've talked about Glendale College being the best kept secret in town. We've talked about this state-of-the-art facility that most people don't see because they only see what they see from Verdugo Road, and that's basically the main administration building and the auditorium. And we've been very anxious this year to get our best kept secret in town out to the community, and hence one of the reasons of this TV show. But we are also conducting tours out here at the college on a monthly basis. And if anybody in our viewing audience would like to see the college, we have an hour tour, then we provide a lunch, and we usually have somebody from the administration talk to the people who are taking the tour a little bit about the college. So if you would just call 818-551-5196 and get a little information, we'd be happy to book these people or any one of you for our next tour. But this is what we want to show them. This and the rest of the campus is an incredible feat that what you've accomplished in the last 12 to 14 years up here at the college.
Oh, thank you.
You know, one of the things I was curious about is we talk about design and particularly since you specialize in educational spaces, what are the considerations when you're designing educational space versus a house or a shopping center?
Well, that's well, I think one of the things that really sets institutional architecture and higher education architecture aside or apart from those other examples is that you're designing for the end user. I suppose you could say the same with a custom house, but most housing is designed to a merchant who is then going to sell the house to someone else. And the same with commercial buildings. You rarely design for the end user, but colleges are unique in that every single classroom, lab, or office is designed for an individual or for a specific program. And it's one of the more satisfying things, but it also involves a great deal of detail. We have to really know the educational program. We really have to learn that from the faculty and from the other users of the college.
So you really get involved with faculty on like committees. It seems like every time we do a building, we have a users committee that helps provide feedback and information. Is that?
Exactly. Very much like the master plan process that you remember. We become almost a part of the faculty. And that's, I think, one of our successes is that we try to become both personal friends and true colleagues and truly understanding their needs and their process of instruction.
Have you gotten involved as far as seeing any formula for the parking scenario up here? I know it's a continual problem. We've discussed it on our other shows, and would be anxious to get your overview of the solution, if there is a solution to the parking dilemma up here.
Well, the reality is that Glendale College is beautifully located right on a freeway, and that's one of the things I think you should be thinking in terms of is you have freeway visibility, which is one of the reasons why you're attracting students. And you're going to attract students with cars, and most students, even the lower income students, have cars today. The parking problem is generally within the first 3 or 4 weeks of the semester. And if the college could find a source of off-site parking with a shuttle bus or something of that nature to get through that peak, then the parking is adequate.
Yeah, that does seem to happen at all campuses, that there's
Exactly.
such a, you know, talk to us a little bit more about what this Central Park's going to look like, because right now, all of us only saw everything go down and nothing going up.
Well, you can go out and see it now, and it, for the first time, it gives the college a large open space, which is typical of most colleges. Many colleges have hundreds of acres of level land. Glendale, of course, land is very precious. And it was a very painful thing to tear down a building, the old 1937 bookstore, or student center bookstore, to create that space. But what we envision for that is a kind of a breathing space and a quiet area for the campus with trees and lots of green. We purposely have made it free-form and natural looking as a counterpoint to the rather urban courtyards that you see on the north and south campus. So it's part of, it's intended as a counterpoint to the other spaces on the campus.
You know, another strength, and I know this plays into the Central Park area, is the handicap access that you have incorporated into this campus, and we were lucky enough to have somebody who had a disability that did some of the planning for us, that made us very sensitive to that issue, right?
You're referring to Dale Fleming.
Fleming, right.
And Dale was my guiding light in the profession. I go back to 1967 with him. He was my client for the first college I worked with. Dale helped me to develop a sensitivity to the needs of the mobility disabled. On this campus, what we designed was a series of buildings that essentially stair-step up the hill with elevators and bridges in order to overcome the 60 or 70 foot change in elevation. So it's been a real challenge, but I think we're very successful in coming up with a solution.
And we're going to be a model, I'm sure, among the community colleges of the state.
That's right.
In that area.
Well, Jim, I thank you very much for joining us. You certainly have left your mark on
Yeah,
Glendale College,
right.
or your legacy, so to speak. I'll tell you, it's been incredible, and you can certainly well be proud of what you've accomplished, and I know what you will accomplish in the future. So thank you very much for being our guest today, and we'll be back after this short commercial message.
Well, students, it's about that time again. Choosing classes, buying books, seeing old friends. But most importantly, it's time to register for a new semester here at Glendale College. If you are a new student, you must apply for admission for the upcoming semester before you can register. Returning students can choose classes by viewing the class schedule on the internet at www.glendale.cc.ca.us or simply by purchasing a class schedule. Make sure to check for prerequisites before registration. Registration will take place via phone on your assigned date and time. Use the convenient registration worksheet to simplify the process. Dial 818-545-7777 and follow the instructions given. Don't forget to pay your fees, and we'll see you soon for an upcoming semester here at Glendale College. For more information, dial 818-240-1000 extension 5901. Study hard and good luck.
Welcome back to Gateways to Glendale College. And Ann, tell us about our next guest.
Our next guest, continuing along and learning more about the construction here at Glendale Community College, is Larry Sarrot, who is our Vice President of Administrative Services. And while he's been here over the last 8 years, we've built 9 new buildings, and with about a $40 million construction budget. So it's good.
Welcome, Larry. It's good to have you with us.
Thank you very much for having me.
Well, why don't you share with us what's in the works here at Glendale College for the next year or two?
Great. I think you've already been informed of our master plan that
Yes.
was prepared back in 1992, and the college is moving along and proceeding to implement its master plan. The next component of our master plan is the science addition project, which will add about 16,000 square feet of science facilities to the college. And I believe the community is aware that that building now is going to be built by a combination of federal, state, and local dollars, much of the local dollars coming from contributions from our community, about $1.6 million that we've raised. And we're very, very pleased that we're going to be starting that project, I think, sometime this spring.
Great. That's going to be a great addition to this college, isn't it?
It will really add a new dimension to our sciences. We hope to have, or we plan to have, a new planetarium, an expanded modern lecture hall, which will have linkages to the Jet Propulsion Laboratory in Pasadena, and we will be able to get direct feeds from NASA and JPL satellites and missions directly to our lecture hall.
Yeah.
And our students will be able to sit and watch these things as they happen. The community as well, because we hope to make it a community facility.
And educationally as well as architecturally, it's going to add a real statement to this campus, because you'll really see that facility from Verdugo Road. Is that right?
Architecturally, the building is going to be sitting, actually there are two buildings that we're building, a north and south component. The south component being the planetarium and large lecture hall, the north component being labs and classrooms. And they will sit on the front of the campus. We will unfortunately lose some of our front lawn, not the front lawn, the beautiful front lawn in front of the administration building, but the lawn to the north of the administration building and in front of the what we call our PB building. So it will be a real statement. I think there'll be two lovely additions.
It's absolutely amazing about what this college has developed into, with us really being backed up into the mountains and very little space to expand. The incredible usage you've gotten out of the acreage here and the buildings that we have here.
Actually, Glendale College, with one or two exceptions, is probably the smallest community college in California in terms of our physical site. Not only do we have far less acreage than the minimum for any new campus, but most of that is dedicated to hillside. And as you know, the community did support our construction of a parking lot on one of those hillsides. And as a condition of that, we had to pledge to keep the other two hillsides protected as natural reserve. So we do have a very limited site. And we are starting to find ourselves building very, very close to our buildings and on what's left of our open space.
You know, Larry, you talked a little bit about financing earlier, about public-private, and maybe you could share with us a little bit more about, you know, where does these building funds come from? Do they come from the state, locally? How is it we've been able to do all this?
The majority of our buildings are built with state bond money. The public, every several years, votes for a Higher Education Bond Act. And those funds are divided a third between the University of California, the state university system, and community colleges. Actually a little bit inequitably, because community colleges provide probably 70% of all the instruction in the state, and we only get a third of the facility dollars. But most of our buildings are built with state dollars. We have a very complicated, lengthy process. It usually takes 4 to 6 years to get a project funded by the state. And then the state only funds certain buildings. They won't fund physical education facilities, they won't fund parking, they don't fund bookstores or student centers. And one of the things that we've done here just recently is, with the funding from our student body, we have just completed a locally funded construction of a brand new bookstore and remodel of our campus center, all done with local dollars. So occasionally we do projects with local dollars. Our new culinary arts building, which is really a small building of only about 4,500 square feet, was constructed totally with local dollars. The new science center will be a combination of federal, state, and local dollars.
Before we get completely away from the Science Center, you mentioned about groundbreaking being next spring. What do you vision the completion date to be on that particular project?
We are running about 22 to 24 months on most of our construction projects. This new project will be quite complicated because we will be remodeling our existing science building at the same time that we're constructing. And there's always an issue of coordination of the projects. So we hope to break ground in May or June, and we hope to have the building ready for the fall semester, 2 years hence. And that'll give us time to move in and do all of, and a little slippage. We've always have a little slippage in construction.
Construction, always a good idea.
You mentioned the word, almost a word people don't like to talk about here at the college when you're talking about the parking up in the upper area, and that's a tremendous problem up here at Glendale College.
Yes,
and maybe you can kind of address that issue and tell us, if there's any resolvement to that particular parking problem here at the college.
Parking has been a problem apparently at the college from the early 70s when the college started to expand. At one time, Glendale College was 7,000 students, and now we're at 15,000 students plus. We've been very, very fortunate to have a wonderful working relationship with the city of Glendale. And I think also with our neighbors. I think we work very hard to be a good neighbor, and I think our neighbors have been very good to us. And through our partnership with the city, we have been able to build this upper parking lot and to take advantage of the city lots that are associated with Verdugo Park and with the Civic Center or the Civic Auditorium. But that still leaves us short. We find that we are not only without space for our students, we're actually without space for our employees, and we are having a difficulty in that area. With our close working relationship with the city, we've been successful in implementing the B line, which has gone from one line running from South Central Glendale to 3 lines now. The South Central line, a line that runs northwards all the way to Jet Propulsion Laboratory, and a line that now comes from Western Avenue in the Burbank, Glendale area. And that has helped us, I think, take a number of our students out of parking, out of driving. But we still have a parking problem, and we are exploring avenues to deal with that parking. One of the most exciting things that we're looking at, and it falls within, again, our master plan. Our master plan calls for a new athletic facility. I think many people know that our athletic facility is not used by our teams for team sports because they're too small. Our field and track are not the standard, and we conduct our meets and do our games elsewhere, Glendale High, number of parks and areas. And we've had a proposal to build a new athletic complex. And what we're looking at now, something new in the construction field, and that is to put the playing fields on top of a building. And what we would propose doing is to place parking on our existing field and construct the playing fields on top of the parking lot. This addresses our biggest issue, which is land use. We don't have enough land to do everything. Parking is a terribly land intensive. And because we have no place to grow, and again, being good neighbors, we don't want to expand into our neighborhood. We don't want to acquire additional property. We want to take advantage of the property we have now, and we think that by putting our parking where that existing field is and then replicating the field to a legal size field on top of parking is the best of all worlds. The big question is, how do we finance it? And we haven't worked that out yet.
It's a good idea, yeah. Just exploring what happens at other colleges, parking is a problem everywhere, isn't it? Every college, university, et cetera. So we don't want our students to think that they can't find a place to park here.
The only place
the same challenge
to find a school that doesn't have a parking problem is really a school that has an enrollment problem.
Yeah.
All you have to do is go to our neighbor Pasadena and read the local Pasadena Star about the parking problems the first day of school, or anybody who's ever enrolled at Cal State LA or UCLA or Northridge knows the problems of parking. And we charge our students a very modest fee to park, and all of that money goes to pay off the debt we incurred to build the parking lot. And so we're not even getting money out of these fees to maintain the lots. We're doing all that out of our operating budget.
It's good that we continue to explore those options.
I'm just going to ask you one more quick question before time runs out on us, Larry. after the science project, the science building project, what's next on the horizon? Is the athletic
Actually,
compound be the next thing on the horizon?
We've been very fortunate. We have been very fortunate with the state. I think we've done an excellent job in selling our construction program to Sacramento. The state has agreed to fund our next project, which is an instructional project. It's our allied health building. Our nursing program has been for many, many years off campus in hospital sites. 2 years ago, we brought them on campus into basically temporary structures, and now the state has indicated that they are prepared to build us a new building. That building is subject to the upcoming bond measure, which will be in 2002, and we would hope to be under construction in 2003 with occupancy in 2005. It's going to go on an existing site. Again, because of our land use problems, we are going to be tearing down an old 1940s hangar that houses some existing programs, and we will replicate that space plus build the allied health component, which will double the size of our allied health program. And certainly, you know, in Glendale, healthcare is a very, very big business, and we think that this will be a great addition to the program.
Well, Larry, thank you very much for joining us. We've run out of time. And speaking of time, Ann, why don't you remind our viewers about when our show can be seen?
Viewed, well, at Channel 15, 7 p.m. on Thursday evenings, 1:30 p.m. on Saturdays, and 11 a.m. on Sundays.
Terrific. And Larry, very, very interesting. Thank you very,
Thanks
very
for
much
being with us.
for joining us today. And thank you for joining us on Gateways to Glendale College.